The native inhabitants of Virginia's Nansemond River, a 20-mile-long tributary of the James River, are known as the Nansemond. As the term Nansemond means fishing point in Algonquian, the Nansemond people resided in communities on both banks of the river where they hunted, cultivated infertile land, gathered oysters, and fished. The Nansemond Indian Nation, which has federal recognition, is currently home to the Nansemond people. The Nansemond battled to preserve their culture after being gradually driven from their homeland throughout the colonial and subsequent eras. In the late 20th century, they underwent a reorganization, and in 1985, Virginia recognized them as a state. In 2018, they received official recognition following a measure enacted by Congress. Numerous tribal members continue to reside in Suffolk, Chesapeake, and the other communities on their ancestral grounds. Like many other Atlantic coastal tribes, the Nansemond are thought to have spoken an Algonquian language. However, just 6 words have survived, which is insufficient to recognize it. The 6 words, Nicatwin, 1, Necatwin, 2, Nikwasati, 3, Toisiao, 4, Mishanao, 5, and Marimo, dog, may have been distorted in memory by the time they were recorded in 1901. The Nansemond people belonged to the Powhatan Paramount Chiefdom, which was said to have had around 20,000 inhabitants along the coastal region of what is now Virginia, and was made up of roughly 30 tribes. They were loyal to the Powhatan, a supreme chief. They called the place where they resided along the Nansemond River Chuckatuck. The Nansemond were first suspicious when a party of immigrants led by the explorer John Smith landed on the north bank of the James River in 1607 and founded the village of Jamestown. Following the oyster beds along the Nansemond River, the Jamestown settlers started exploring the area in 1607. In 1609, a party of Jamestown settlers were sent to exchange food for copper and ratchets with the Indians, further straining already fragile relations between the colonists and the Nansemond as a result of Indian incursions. But the colonists never came back, so a search team was organized. When the search team came across several Indians, they told them that the missing colonists had been slaughtered and that mussel shells had been used to slash and scrape their brains from their heads. The colonists retaliated by visiting Dumpling Island, the home of the tribe's temples and holy objects, as well as the residence of the top chief. Temples and the resting places of tribal chiefs were demolished by the raiding group. Valuables like pearls and copper decorations, which were traditionally interred with the remains of dignitaries, were looted from homes and places of worship. Colonists began to invade Nansemond territory by the 1630s. Land ownership was seen differently by the two peoples. Elizabeth, the daughter of the Nansemond Nation's chief, was married to John Bass, a colonist from Virginia, in the early 17th century. On August 14, 1638, they were married after she was baptized into the colony's established Anglican church. Bass was born on September 7, 1616, and passed away in 1699. Together, Elizabeth, John, Jordan, Keziah, Nathaniel, Richard, Samuel, and William were their 8 children. Despite her conversion to Christianity, Elizabeth probably brought up their kids in Nansemond culture. The children were regarded as born into their mother's clan and people under the tribe's matrilineal kinship structure. According to some Nansemond, this union is their ancestry. According to Dr. Helen C. Roundtree's study, this union is the ancestor of all living Nansemonds. Augustus Bass is behind William H. Weaver, who is seated. By around 1710, the Weaver family, who were East Indians from present-day India and Pakistan, who had been indentured, were free in Lancaster County. They were taxable mulatto proprietors in neighboring Hartford County, North Carolina, by 1741, and taxables in Norfolk County by 1732. In Hartford County, there were 164 free-colored family members by 1820. Some of them registered as Nansemond Indians in Norfolk County in the 1830s. National Museum of Anthropology, Nansemond Indians. Over the course of the 17th century, the Nansemond Tribe was impacted by advancing colonists and ultimately broke away. Christians continued to identify as Nansemond, resided near the Nansemond River as farmers, and accepted European ways of life. The Pachik, or those who did not convert, fought a feudal struggle against English colonists in 1644. The House of Burgesses granted the survivors a reserve after they retreated southwest to the Nottoway River. They stopped utilizing the area by 1744 and moved to another adjacent reserve to live among the Nottoway Indians, an Iroquoian-speaking group. Known as citizen Indians, the Nansemond sold their reserve in 1792. Following an agreement in 2013, the city of Suffolk gave the Nansemond approximately 70 acres, 0.28 square kilometers, of their ancestral land along the Nansemond River, which was held by the city. After years of debate, the accord was reached. Despite being primarily made up of non-Indians, the task team that the city of Suffolk formed to examine the proposal favored granting the location to the Nansemond. The tribe was required to provide the Mattanochtown Task Group with comprehensive project plans, including drawings and documents outlining the kind of nonprofit foundation that would be established when the tribe received the property title. The tribe, who intended to base its reconstruction on archaeological and other research, received assistance from Helen C. Roundtree, whose work helped pinpoint the location of Mattanochtown. This would guarantee that longhouses and other buildings were constructed precisely to correspond with their historical proportions. The Suffolk City Council decided to return this land to the Nansemond in November 2010. Everything came to a standstill in June 2011 due to the tribe's reservations about the proposed development deal. The city of Suffolk returned the ancient grounds of Nansemond to the tribe in August 2013. The property was sanctified by Nansemond Tribe members who convened at the historic location of Mattanochtown that November. The tribe intended to utilize this location to rebuild the Mattanochtown and construct a POW WOW field, community center, and museum, among other amenities. They intended to showcase their past in order to draw tourists. Over the course of more than a decade, the city and the tribe worked together to conceive and negotiate this project. But with the land transfer, the city added a development agreement with a reverter provision. According to this condition, the property would return to the city if Mattanochtown, with a reenactment town for tourist attractions, could not be built within 5 years. In 2018, the Nansemond Tribe changed its name to the Nansemond Indian Nation in order to get federal recognition. The city confiscated the land because the nation failed to fulfill the time frame for finishing the tourist village requirement. Even though their new status opened up fresh financing sources, an MOU for the return of the 71 acres to the nation was overwhelmingly accepted by the Suffolk City Council on May 15, 2024. Additionally, the nation told the council that their goals for Mattanochtown had changed, placing more emphasis on education and conservation than on tourism. There are over 400 tribe members in Nansemond. They were recognized as a citizen tribe by the state in 1984 and the federal government in 2018. Keith Anderson is the chief at the moment. The Indiana United Methodist Church, which was established in 1850 as a mission for the Nansemond, is the location of their monthly tribe meetings. In August, the tribe has a powwow each year. Additionally, the tribe has run gift stores and a museum. It was not until a law was enacted by Congress in 2018 that the Nansemond and other landless Virginia tribes received federal status. In both chambers of Congress, a measure to recognize 6 Virginian tribes was presented. The following were covered: Monacan Indian Nation, Upper Mattapony Tribe, Rappahannock Tribe, Nansemond Indian Tribe, Eastern Chickahominy Indian Tribe, and Chickahominy Indian Tribe. Since the late 20th century, each of these landless tribes has petitioned for federal recognition through the Department of Interior's Bureau of Indian Affairs. Since the time of their tribes' interactions with the colony and state, they have struggled to demonstrate cultural and political continuity. This was caused in part by racial prejudice by European Americans, which was exacerbated by Virginia's history as a slave state. European Americans believed that the Nansemond and other indigenous peoples were no longer Indian as they married white or African American peoples. However, if the mother was Nansemond, she often brought up her kids according to their customs. A statute known as the one-drop rule, which was established in Virginia in the early 20th century, required that everyone be either white or colored. The latter category included everyone with any known African heritage, regardless of other lineage or cultural background. The consistency of records was destroyed when administrators refused to recognize families that identified as Indian and instead labeled them as Black. In contrast, churches continued to register Catholic indigenous persons as Indian for burials, weddings, and baptisms. In 2003, the Thomasina E. Jordan Indian Tribes of Virginia Federal Recognition Act was submitted by those who supported these tribes' federal recognition. Supporters brought up this idea once more in 2009, and by June of that year, it had cleared both the U.S. House of Representatives and the House Committee on Natural Resources. The day following the House passage, a companion bill was forwarded to the U.S. Senate. The Senate's Committee on Indian Affairs received that measure. The measure was passed by the Senate Committee on October 22, 2009, and it was added to the Senate's legislative schedule on December 23. Senator Tom Coburn, ROK, put the measure on hold due to jurisdictional concerns and encouraged them to seek for BIA certification. However, the Racial Integrity Act of 1924, which required that all citizens be classified as either white or Black, colored, has resulted in the loss of important documents for the Virginia tribes. The one-drop rule was used by Walter Plecker, the first registrar, 1912 to 1946, of the newly established Virginia Bureau of Vital Statistics, who reclassified the Indian status of many tribe members born in Virginia to colored after concluding that certain families were mixed race. The law was eventually enacted in January 2018 after more delays, and 6 Virginia tribes were granted federal status.